You're listening to The Moose and the Loose, your 10 minutes action-packed financial podcast with your host, Mike Yahoo. Hey, what's up, Market Moose? This is Mike from The Moose on the Loose. I hope you're doing well today. Today, we're going to do something different. I'm actually going to talk about Algonquin, but I'm not going to talk about Algonquin for a long time in this podcast. So we're going to start with a little story. So my oldest son, William, he has an old car. So the first car that he bought when he was 17, and now he decided to put it for sale. He has his job and so on. So he bought a new car. So he has his new car, and he also has his old Dodge, kind of like orange color, like very flashy, that is still in our driveway. Actually, he actually parked it in front of our house, and he's just like put it for sale, but didn't put much attention, much work onto putting it for sale. So just put it on the marketplace, and that's pretty much it. So I had a discussion with him, and I'm like, dude, it's been like over a month now. It's for sale, but you're not doing much about it, and it's still kind of like just in my face all the time. And he's like, yeah, but people are not giving me enough for it. It's worth like at least like $4,000, maybe $5,000. But I'm like, William, you put it for sale for like 3,000 something, and nobody's actually rushing to give you $4,000 for it. You're not even having enough offers at 3,000. So what's the thing? And he's like, no, but it's worth more than that. It's going to happen. Like all my friends are telling me that it's okay. And I'm like, okay, so well, at one point I'm kind of like a bit tired to see it. But here's the thing. There are like costs of keeping that second car that is technically worth a lot more, but you're not getting it. First, you have to pay for insurance on it. So those are like the insurance, the license numbers, and so on. So there are like fees attached to having that car just sitting in front of you without doing anything. And maybe over time, well, first, like you're not going to get more money over time. Like a car doesn't necessarily grow in value. And the other problem is if you don't drive it, maybe it's going to break something else because something's going to rust or whatever. Like I'm not good with mechanic, but I mean, a car is made to run. If you don't run it, well, chances are at one point, it's not going to get any better, right? And plus, there is that mental reminder that you have that orange car in front of you every single morning. I don't know, maybe it doesn't bother him that much, but it definitely bothers me. So there is a cost of keeping it. The value you think you're going to have is probably not going to happen anytime soon or ever. And there's a mental reminder of, yeah, I have this money sitting there, but I'm not getting enough of it, but I cannot use anything out of that either. So now, going back to Algonquin, and I decided to use Algonquin because that was one of my losers, and I was very fast to move on it. And a lot of investors are telling me, Mike, how do you make those fast move and never look back? Well, whenever I decide to sell a stock, and I usually rip off the Band-Aid fairly fast. And honestly, it has nothing to do with limiting my losses, because with Algonquin, that has been pretty much a bad investment. That's to say the least. I lost between 40 to 50% of my investment on this one. So definitely not one of my trophy investments that I would put on the shelf, like or a trophy as a reminder of like not doing this again and not falling in the same trap. But you have to live and learn, right? And we all make mistakes as investors. But the thing is, I do have clear rules. And one of them is if a company cuts their dividend, I just sell. like on the spot, on the same day, and then I move on. And it's exactly what I did with Algonquin, because I didn't care at that point. There were like a bunch of other reasons, but that was like the major reason. You do not fit in my portfolio since I focus on dividend growers. And ironically, when I sold the stock was around like January 12 or 13, I can't remember, but that was like when they announced the dividend cut. The stock dropped on that day. I took my loss and then I moved on. A few months later, like somewhere in May, somebody that would have bought it on the dividend cut would have shown a profit dividend, well, the dividend cut plus the price included. So total return of like 35% around May. That's kind of crazy. So a lot of people would have said, Mike, you should have waited. This stock is coming back, da-da-dee, da-da-da. And then it went all downhill from now. So fast forward to today, if you like, I've looked at like when I sold on January 13th, if I look at today's total return, I would be up 5.75. So up 6% after like roughly a little bit more than a year and a half. How does it compare? Well, it compared that if I had just put that money on the TSX 60, so XIU, is up 16.7%. So a small 11% better, which is not much, right? I mean, it's only 3 times Algonquin's return during that period. Of course, it's a very short period of time. Things could have been different as well. But my point was, if you don't act very fast, you may leave a lot of money on the table. And so far, right now, the cost of keeping Algonquin is leaving 3 times the returns on the table, which is huge, right? On my side, what I did is I invested in, and I'm going to get back to like the most important cost is not the money, but something else. I'm going to get there in a second. So on my side, what I did is I already had a position in Fortis. I wanted to keep the the sector allocation in the utility sector. So I just moved my money from Algonquin to Fortis. Definitely did not recover the loss on Algonquin so far. Fortis is up 7.8%, including the dividend. So slightly beating Algonquin, but again, it's not the point. So not necessarily a much better investment from a mathematical point of view at this time. Another solution would have been to go for Hydro One that I recently covered on the Moose last week. This one is up 19%. I just want to highlight this one because seriously, it is a very, like, it's a sleep well at night type of investment. Super boring, but super predictable and doing an amazing job. But going back to my choice was quite simple, and it was not just to try to recover my loss, because of course, especially if you lose a massive amount of money on a sector such as utilities or REITs or like pipelines, chances are those are not the stocks that will skyrocket and will recover very quickly. So hoping to recover your losses by investing in those kind of like boring and stable sector, probably not going to make it. If I wanted to recover quickly, that would have been more like, oh, I'm trying to play casino, like second chance, which I don't think it's a good thing. I mean, the point here is to invest, not to gamble. But if you want to gamble, well, then you go for like technology stocks or for like penny stocks or stuff like that, and then you're trying to fastly recover. But now you're getting out of your ways if you have a strategy, because it's probably not part of your strategy anyway. So on my side, I just decided to keep my portfolio as is, just to count on my other type of investments, like my Couche-Tards, my Apple, my Microsoft, my Visa, my National Bank, and all the great performers in my portfolio to compensate for that loss at Algonquin, which they actually did perfectly, and kept my sector allocation intact with having a stronger exposure to Fortis instead. The point was to buy peace of mind. So by getting rid of Algonquin quickly, I get rid of a reminder that I made a major mistake. Because every single time I open my brokerage account, same as like when I come in my office and I look outside, I see that orange car. It's a reminder that the freaking car is not sold. So again, reminder that AQN has been a mistake. It is losing money. And I know that it is paper loss until you sell it. But let's be honest, how many companies crash and burned and then fully recovered? I mean, it happens. Everything happens in their life, right? But those are more like anecdotes. Those are like exceptions. Most of the companies that crash and burns, they crash and burns for a pretty good reason, and they have a very hard time to get back on track. For Algonquin, I've discussed that several times, but unless they change their business model and go back to growth mode, because right now they're selling assets, so they're definitely not into growth mode yet. Well, what are the chances that they become a darling and thrive on the business? Who wants to buy a company that is just trying to strengthen their balance sheet and selling assets? That's not very appealing investment thesis, right? So getting rid of that reminder, improving my confidence in the other stocks that I have, because when I open my brokerage account, most of my companies are thriving. This reinforced my sentiment that my strategy is working. My total return reinforced that sentiment as well. And getting rid of those losers quickly is also improving that confidence. What's the most important thing? And I tell you this after each episode: staying invested. This is how you can make a very good return and achieve your financial goals regardless of your strategy. Is you keep a strategy that works, you stick to it, and then you stay invested in it at all time. If you do that, it's going to work. And one of the great things is when you make mistakes, you fix them quickly and you move on. So you stay focused on what matters the most, which is your strategy. All right, Moose, I hope that I've helped you getting a little bit more conviction this morning. If you have enjoyed this podcast, please forward it to one of your friends who has some losers in their portfolio and cannot seem to let go. I think it's going to help them a lot. All right, so tomorrow, we're going to look at my portfolio. I have a few stories that I want to discuss about my portfolio a little bit past halfway through the year. So it's going to be fun. So until then, don't forget to stay invested. Hey, welcome to the disclaimer. If you're listening to The Moose and the Loose, you cannot really expect me to give you buy or sell recommendation or financial advice, right? You're here for fun, you're here for information and some entertainment. But I am not your financial advisor, I am not your broker, so therefore I'm not liable if you're losing money after listening to the podcast. If you're looking for some advice, go see a professional. If not, you can enjoy this show and do your due diligence after it.